All right, this is Phil McNally with Artspeak, and we appreciate you guys coming on board and seeing who we have up on the stage today. We have Jason, and Jason is a gallery owner from Xanadu. He's a Xanadu Gallery owner, and I want to make sure that I pronounce his last name correct. Is it Horsch? Is that
It's
correct?
Horsch. That's right.
Horsch. Okay, well then I then I got that.
You got
Some
it.
people some people I don't quite get it right, but we appreciate you being on, Jason. Thank you very much for
Thanks
coming.
for having me, Phil.
What we do here at Artspeak, we talk to people involved with art, and that's pretty much our whole motif. So we talk art, we talk things about art. I've talked to artists. If you go back onto some of my podcasts, talk to other artists, and today we're talking with. Basically, this is my first gallery owner, and I've been wanting to get a gallery owner on my podcast for a long time. And Jason happens to be the top of the line to me. I mean, he's way up there as far as gallery. So what we're going to do is we're going to really delve deep in here and figure out, what gallery owners do and how they do it and how art can help them and how they can help us. So it's kind of like we're just gonna play it as we go. So normally what I do is I start out as far as the beginnings, as far as how did you get into gallery owning, what did you come up with. So let's start there and we'll go and then we'll take it out of that once we
Sure.
complete that area. So
That sounds good. Yes, I am a gallery owner, as you mentioned, but I maybe come with a little bit different perspective in that I'm second generation in the art business. My father is a painter, an oil painter, John Horejs, and he has been a full-time painter for going on 50 years. So a good long time. I grew up in an artist's household, and so I experienced firsthand, a lot of the struggles and challenges that artists face. I got to watch my father and my mom, who's his business manager, build his career. I was not endowed with artistic talent. It skipped me in the gene pool. But I grew up with a great love of art, the visual arts, the performing arts, by the time I was an adolescent, I had decided that I hope to pursue a career in the art business. I got a job at a gallery where my father was showing his work in Scottsdale, Arizona. And this gallery was a large Western art gallery, and I kind of got to learn the ropes from the ground floor up. Started in the back room doing shipping and helping with displays and those kinds of things, and eventually was able to work my way into a sales position. And once I had the opportunity to sell my first work of art, and I still remember the painting very distinctly, I was hooked. I just knew that I'd found a vocation in life. There was something so amazing about being there at that moment when a potential art buyer encounters a new work of art. It moves them, in a deep way, and then to be able to facilitate them bringing that piece of artwork into their lives where they're going to enjoy it for many years or decades to come. It was awesome. And so I continued kind of working my way up. And then in 1998, I got married. As young couples often will, my wife and I started talking about our future. And my wife, Carrie, graduated in public relations, but she has a background in ballet and so also in the arts. And we decided that ultimately, our goal would be to have our own gallery. And so we came up with a plan to do that. It took us some time to kind of figure out what we wanted to do and some of the business aspects of our gallery. But in 2001, we finally were able to get the doors open. It happened to be our first day in business happened to be September 11th, 2001. So not the most
ouch.
auspicious timing for us. And obviously, as we got started, there was a lot of concern that the art market might be very challenging in the near term. And indeed it was. But we very quickly learned that art is such an important part of people's lives that no matter what's going on in the world, they're going to continue to seek out great works of art. They're going to continue to acquire them. And we've certainly seen that to be the case over the last couple of decades that we have been in business. And so we've been running Xanadu ever since. We're in our third decade now, which is it's been exciting for us, and it's been a lot of fun because not only do we get to meet and interact with fascinating and interesting artists from around the world, but we also get to interact with very interesting collectors and art buyers from
Mhm.
around the world. And Phil, we've really kind of our focus as a gallery has been on doing something that's a little bit different. We're not, we're in Scottsdale, Arizona, but we're not a Western or a Southwestern gallery. We're looking for artists who have some unique perspectives and are doing things a little bit differently. And I've always loved kind of this aspect of helping artists maybe launch their careers or take them to the next level. And so we've worked with a lot of up and coming artists. Many of the artists that we've represented over the years, we may have been their very first art gallery to give them a shot. And we work with some well-established artists as well, but I try to keep a real mix of different work. And I take a lot of pleasure, in kind of helping artists establish themselves.
Yeah, you have something out there. I came across recently. Couple things that you have out there, but you have a webinar that you did a webinar for artists. Is that correct?
Yes, so that is correct, and again, this kind of grew out of my interest in seeing artists build their careers. In the mid 2000s, I started Red Dot Blog,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Mm-hmm.
a blog for artists, specifically artists and gallery owners, focused on the business of art and with a real emphasis on helping. Um, Artists understand the ins and outs of the business of marketing, working with galleries, engaging with the public, selling online, social media. I mean, just about anything that I'm engaged with, I'm sharing through this blog. And what I very quickly realized was that there was a lot of interest in this, that, a lot of artists, while they may spend years in art school developing their craft and technique, maybe they even get an advanced degree. It's somewhat difficult to find practical and pragmatic advice about how to engage in the art world. And if you're interested in selling your work, how do you do that? How do you work with galleries? And
Mm-hmm.
so from that blog and kind of the comments I was getting there and the interactions I was having with the art world in general, I started actually traveling at first and giving seminars in person, and that eventually evolved into online courses and webinars for artists who are interested in that. And so, I try to balance the kind of my business as a gallery owner, working with collectors, against also helping artists better understand the business. And so I've written several books, and just try that. You kind of think of that as my hobby or my second vocation is helping artists.
Well, no, that is something that I think from an artist standpoint is so misunderstood and not really understood well enough, basically, because I was in a group yesterday, and it's an artist that I've interviewed. His name is Bill Inman, and I think you have one of his students on one of your Facebook groups or some, Kathy Rivera, and she is an artist too. And I said, well, I'm going to be interviewing Jason tomorrow. What are some of the questions you want me to ask him from an artist standpoint? And I'm sitting there listening to some of the things, and it's like, there isn't enough information for artists. I mean, from my standpoint, I'm in that group as well. I'm a new artist, basically, been budding, but I mean, I've painted a long time, but not from a business perspective. And this is where I'm taking this podcast, as far as more from a business perspective and a learning artist
Sure.
perspective, who wants to not get into a hobby, but who wants to basically take it from the to the next level. And it is wonderful to hear that you got another view on galleries other than, and that's probably I'm thinking that maybe one of many, probably many reasons that kept you alive, because artists, have been faced in the 2000s and the 2010s and the 2020s. I mean, we are internet bound, all over Facebook and Instagram and everything else. And
Sure.
and my background's pretty much technical, so I get it, but I don't like it necessarily. And those people who are sitting at home and just saying, okay, I'm doing this piece of work and I'm doing this piece of work, they're just they're lost. And what they do is they get the news, and the news is galleries aren't there anymore, and you've got to put half of your time, if not more than that, into technology and
Sure.
start learning that and go down that road. So I want to take this in a little different view, because I see two views here. I see one from your view. You're saying a gallery owner, from a collector standpoint. You've got a series of collectors that come to your door, and then there's a gallery owner from an artist standpoint, and that's the one I'm pretty much interested. So let me ask you something.
Sure.
I'm an artist, and I'm gonna make this really simple. I'm an artist. I walk into your gallery. I've got a piece of art, and I say, "Hey, look, put me on your wall." you know,
Right.
what what is it that an artist has to be before they walk in your door? Has to be somewhat attuned to, understanding, and then knowledgeable enough to say, there's a chance I get on the wall, versus walking in and just saying, put me on the wall, because
Right.
that I know ain't going to work. I mean, unless
Yeah.
I'm your brother or something like
But
that.
you're right. It's a stretch for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. And so, and it's a great question, Phil. I think that, what you're talking about is exactly it almost feels like a kind of brick wall between an artist and galleries, this kind of mystery of what is it that gallery owners want? What are they looking for? And I've always encouraged artists, to the extent that it's possible to do so, to put yourself in the gallery owner's shoes. And so a lot of my blogging is about what it's like to
Mm.
be a gallery owner, and, what it takes to sell artwork, and what are some of the challenges of operating a gallery. And if you understand those issues and those challenges and the goals of a gallery owner, it puts you as an artist in a much better position to prepare yourself to be attractive to a gallery owner. And so what is a gallery owner looking for? And first and foremost, as a gallery owner, I am a business person. My wife and I run this business to support our family, and our employees, and we have to treat it as a business. And so that's one of the first big misperceptions that some artists have about galleries. They kind of conflate them with museums, or think that it's
Mm-hmm.
just
Mm-hmm.
about the display of the art and
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing. And the truth is, it's not. It is a business. I am a merchant, and sometimes, as I'm interacting online, artists will say gallery owners are just merchants. They're just trying to sell art. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what we are. And if I understand that, I'm going to be in a better position to relate to the gallery owner and to work with them. And so what I'm looking for in an artist is, I have a stable of artists that I'm representing, and my highest priority is to move artwork, to sell artwork out of the gallery. And so what I want to see with an artist who's approaching me for representation is, first and foremost, how does the work strike me? Is it interesting to me? Do I think that it's going to appeal to my clients? Is it engaging? Is it so there's a little bit of a fine line you have to walk, in that I have to find artwork that is going to be different from all of the other artists that I'm representing. It doesn't make sense to duplicate other artwork that I'm already showing in the gallery, but at the same time, it can't be so different that it doesn't make sense in the context of the other artwork that's showing in the gallery. So I'm kind of threading that needle. It's got to be harmonious with what we're doing. I've got to feel like the artist is going, as we start promoting and selling the artist's work, and start putting marketing dollars behind it and start putting our sales efforts behind it, I've got to feel like there's going to be a return on that investment. That, as artwork begins to sell and collectors begin to buy it, that you as the artist are going to be able to resupply us, get us new work. But
Hmm.
that new work that comes in is going to be in the same vein and consistent and cohesive with the work that we have. It takes time and energy to build a following for an artist's work, to educate our collectors about that artwork. And, in order, again, to get that investment back, we've got to be able to have a supply of artwork that is consistent and cohesive. And then I also just have to really be able to make a good relationship with you. I think this is also a big misperception in the art world, both among artists and gallery owners at times, is there's this thought that gallery owners are some kind of demigods who rule the
Hmm.
universe and decide your fate, whether you're going to display or not.
Hmm.
We're all powerful and all knowing, and you just have to supplicate yourself to us. And if you're lucky and you make the right sacrifices, maybe you'll get picked up and we'll start to sell. And that's just not at all what it is. What it really is that as a gallery owner, I am looking for partners. I would not be in business were it not for the artists that I represent. And those artists are consigning their work to me with the faith and hope that I'm going to successfully promote and market and sell their work. And in the best circumstances, when that works out and we do become good partners, it can literally become a lifelong partnership between an artist and a gallery. And so, as an artist, you want to position yourself to where a gallery owner can feel like all of that, they can kind of see all of that potential in you. And so you want to present yourself professionally, right? You want to have a portfolio that shows a body of your work that's consistent and cohesive. You want to have a well-crafted artist biography or background and story. That's a powerful marketing tool that we're going to be using, and to see that you've already put that in place lets us know that there's a lot of forethought in your efforts as an artist. We're going to look at your resume, but not so much that we're going to be picking it apart and trying to determine how successful you've been, but rather that we just want to see that again, you're striving to be professional and well organized. And then it's going to come down to that kind of hard to define it factor where as I'm talking to you, I just feel like we have a real connection
Hmm.
and that we're going to be able to work well together. And so, with those things in mind, if I'm an artist, what would I want to begin working on right away? Well, I'd want to be working on building a body of consistent and cohesive artwork that has a consistent style and thematic elements, that is well and professionally presented in terms of framing or other presentation if you're not framing your work. I'd want to start putting together my portfolio in a way that presents that work well. And then the last factor I'll mention here, and I won't go into a lot of depth, we can talk about it more if you want to, but that is that I'm going to recommend that you as an artist really think about approaching a lot of galleries. I think one of the biggest mistakes that artists make as they're seeking gallery representation is that you go and talk to one or two gallery owners and they say, we're not interested. And you feel
Hmm.
like, oh, well, that's
Hmm.
it. My career's over. Galleries
Hmm.
don't like my work. And that's not it at all. What those gallery owners are saying is, you're just not a good fit for our particular gallery, or your work doesn't resonate with me personally. But this is a numbers game. I've got, as a gallery owner, I have to talk to hundreds of potential buyers before I make a sale happen. Likewise, you as an artist are going to need to talk to many galleries before you're going to find successful representation.
Yeah, that was one of my points that I'm going to make on this, because it's like, okay, I walked into a gallery and I think I walked in one not too long ago, and it was like, okay, a lot of abstracts and everything like that, and I'm just looking at the walls and just studying without talking to anybody, and I find that, if I was a realist painter, I mean, this wouldn't work. I
Right.
mean, it's like, I think you kind of hit close to what I'm thinking about, is that get to know the person, who the owner or the manager or whoever in the gallery, enough to know what is it that they are looking for.
Sure.
And once you find it that they are looking for something that you do, then get into more of an approachable circumstance
I'm
versus.
gonna jump in for just a second, Phil, there
Sure.
and say, I agree with the general perspective there that you want to aim for galleries that are a good potential fit. I might word it just a little bit differently, or even think about it a little bit differently, in that we want to be careful that you don't put yourself in a position that you end up with paralysis, where you feel like I've really got to do tons of research and I've
Mm,
got to meet the
mm,
gallery owners before I decide if I'm even going to approach the gallery with my work. And the problem with that is that that's just going to take too much time. Where many galleries are not going to be a good fit, we want to move a little bit more quickly. And so instead, I'm just going to suggest that you look at the other art in the gallery and you say, is there a chance my artwork would look okay with this other artwork in the gallery? If the answer is no, then you cross that gallery off your list. And if the answer is yes, then you submit a portfolio. Don't overthink it. We want to get the portfolio out there in as many gallery owners' hands as we can. And so my suggestion is that as you're thinking about approaching galleries, that you sit down at your computer and you start doing some Google searches, you look at
mhm.
gallery resource lists, and you aim to build a list of 100 galleries that you want to approach. And having this nice, long, deep list of galleries is going to put you in a much better position to find galleries that want to represent you. But it's also going to help you psychologically to realize that, okay, most of these galleries are not going to be interested. And that means that when I get a no thank you from a gallery, I don't have to feel like it's this soul crushing rejection of me and my work.
Mhm.
I just
Right.
know that it's one more step along the way to getting my artwork in front of the right gallery. And I can kind of proceed that way. But we want to move fast. We want to get the gallery or the portfolio in as many gallery owners' hands as we can as quickly as possible.
Yeah, it's interesting. You being in Arizona, I had an interview, a podcast with Jose Trujillo, who's a painter and an artist, and he actually sells on eBay, and he's done 100,000 over 100,000 paintings as far as selling them. And he was saying, when I get up and I go and somebody calls me and says, I like that painting, or we sell it for this. It's like his words were like, say, I see how many no's I can get, which I just keep looking at a no as being a no and not being something that's going to kill me. It's just say,
Exactly.
okay, we move on. And I think that's kind of where you're kind of coming from too. You just move on, but I've got a point on you, because the thing is that, okay, 100 galleries. I mean, will gallery owners, I talked about coming into a door, into a gallery, a shop, a store, and saying, okay, brick and mortar, let's go in and let's just talk. Or let's just say, hey, would you accept this? Here's my little portfolio, da 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 da. Um, there aren't, let's say, the gallery population over the last, let's say, 10 years has decreased. So there isn't a lot of galleries. Do you have the thing that you're saying with 100 galleries? Is it more phone call and imagery on the net versus actually
Yeah,
walking in and
that's going to
finding something?
depend a little bit on where you're located, right? If I'm an artist in Arizona, I've got several hundred galleries in the greater metropolitan Phoenix area, Tucson, Sedona. There are a lot of galleries that I could potentially go and visit in person. But if I'm in a small town in the Midwest, they may be out of reach. I may not be able to
Right,
go and visit as
right.
many galleries. And so my preference is that if you can make a physical visit to a gallery, that's going to be the best way to kind of encourage that personal relationship. But if you can't do that, then email the galleries, attach your portfolio, shoot them out by email, and email those 100 galleries. And I get a lot of submissions that way, and I've taken on artists through email, and so you should not allow your location to be an impediment to your submissions to those galleries. The other thing I'd say is, there is this sense that the art market is changing, and that that sales are moving online, and that there are fewer bricks and mortar galleries out there. And it's a little hard to get statistics on that. And I would say that I'm not arguing that point, because certainly even if I look at Arizona and look at Scottsdale over the several decades that we've been in business, we can see that there's been consolidation, and that just by sheer numbers, there are some number fewer galleries than there were, say, 20 years ago. But it's not 90% of galleries that have closed, or 80%, or even 50%. If I had to estimate, I'd say from 2001, when we opened, until now in Scottsdale, the reduction in galleries has been somewhere around 20%. So there are still a good number of galleries out there. And there's been this sense that, well, why would I show my work in a gallery when I could just sell it online and not pay a gallery commission?
Exactly.
And I encourage artists, if to pursue those sales online and develop that customer base. But what we've also discovered is that the online marketplace for art very quickly became saturated.
Yes,
And
it has.
if I'm going online to sell my work, I'm competing with every artist around the world,
Everybody.
millions and millions of
Yeah.
artists, and tens of millions of works of art. And so it's difficult to get your artwork noticed. Not impossible, but difficult. And so galleries have kind of shifted their position a bit, in that we remain a venue for new art buyers and seasoned collectors to encounter new artwork, to engage with it, and to have a little bit of a different experience. Um, you know, it's not just about purchasing a commodity that I can put on my wall and fill a space. It's also about the experience of traveling to Scottsdale, or Aspen, Colorado, or Jackson Hole, Wyoming, or Asheville, North Carolina, going through the galleries, talking to the gallery owners,
Mhm.
finding new artists. And, it turns out that kind of experience is really important to art buyers. And so I think in this new world that we live in, there is an opportunity on both sides, both to promote yourself, but also to build these partnerships with galleries and increase your exposure that way.
Yeah, let me ask you about that, because that's kind of interesting, because I see the value from what you're talking about, which I personally didn't realize. I mean, you have you have collectors, so you have, as you call the stable of artists, and that you go through, and of course you probably also have a stable of collectors that you can talk to, who have other collector friends and things like that, that probably word of mouth scenarios that can possibly open up, because that's something that the artist is striving to get. If I had, me personally, if I had 3 to 4 collectors buy my art, I'm good. Now, some other people, I need 20 collectors or whatever.
Sure.
Well, there's always a certain number. But the thing about you being a gallery owner, you have this contact. And I'm wondering, just a question here, I'm wondering, is it do you guys behind the scenes, as a gallery owner to another gallery owner, do you guys kind of consult and talk, saying, look, I've got this great artist, I don't put him on the wall, he's not the best, well, he's really good, but I can't put him in my wall, maybe you can put him in yours? Or are there a coalition of
You
gallery
know,
owners talking?
not not as extensively as there might be. And the challenge there is that I am so busy and engaged running my own gallery, and maintaining relationships with collectors and artists, that it's difficult for me just to have the bandwidth and time to to have those kinds of communications with other gallery owners. I do know other gallery owners, and there are times where I might make a recommendation, but it's pretty rare. um and so most of the time, that responsibility is going to fall on the artist
On the
to really
artist.
do the outreach and get the exposure. And um you know your work might not fit in my gallery, but it might fit in the gallery next door to me. And the reality is you're going to be better served if you reach out to all these galleries rather than waiting and hoping that someone else will do that outreach for you.
Well, let me take it back a bit and let me ask you something. If I, as I am an artist, and I send you my portfolio, and it's like, okay, you come back and say, I'm not gonna accept you. And say, should I also send? Do you know any other gallery that possibly would like this kind of art?
Again, you could, and maybe from time to time a gallery owner will respond to that, but most of the time what you're going to find gallery owners saying is,
Too
I
busy.
just don't know what my competitors are looking for.
Okay.
And for a lot of gallery owners, there may be some hesitation even to do that, where I might run into my neighbor gallery owner a week from now, and he says to me, Jason, what on earth were you thinking sending that nut job down to my gallery?
Yeah.
Are you crazy? Wait until you see what I do to you now, and there's just
Yeah.
this little
Yeah.
sense of
Yeah.
trepidation about
Yeah.
that. And so, um, you know, I certainly might say, oh, well, Phil, I'm a little bit more contemporary. Your work is a little more traditional. There, here's two or three galleries you might look at, but it's still going to fall on you to do that outreach and put the portfolio in front of them.
Uh, that's great information, Jason, as far as where what an artist needs to think, because that's kind of what I wanted to bring out with this broadcast is just saying, okay, look, this thing I keep hearing is that galleries are no more, and that they should, don't go to them even if you find them, kind of a thing. I'm glad that's kind of come out and worked its way out, hopefully with most people that are listening, that is an avenue that we need to go. It's just an avenue of many that I think artists need to
Right.
go, just not one. I mean, just keep on going. It's not, it doesn't end as far as the work. Yeah, there is a
Exactly.
door that you open, and there is a business that you get into, and you got to keep at it. And this is one of the avenues that you can go down, and it could be successful. So for some, temporary for others, permanent for others. So it all depends on the give. Thank you.
Thanks,
And
Phil.
this is Phil McNally with Artspeak, and we will see you next time you stay clear.